Welcome to my first weekly wrap-up, hopefully, and also my wrap-up for the reading rush. First of all, I do want to acknowledge that the reading rush hosts did mess up again during their live show yesterday in basically making fun of not finishing the book that they chose for their book club. Such a fun age. I didn't plan on participating in the book club and I didn't end up doing it. I do still plan to read the book, but I do want a little bit more time and not do that in like a readathon setting. I do think they have to diversify their team. I think they have to rethink the way they talk about this readathon. I have been a little bit uncomfortable with the whole organization during this round, to be honest. However, I did have a pretty good reading rush, and I do want to talk about my week. Two really nice things that I got to do during the reading rush is I hosted a read-in for Germany, and I got to meet some other German readers, and I also got to gift some of the books that I no longer want to different people in Germany who are interested in reading them, which was really fun. I also ended up reading 7 things. Since last week was exam week for me, I didn't really have that much time, so it wasn't 7 full-length novels, which I have done in the past, but I finished up 7 things. I ended up finishing all the challenges, and I'm going to share the things I read last week with you right now. So, book 1 was Flavia de Luce, Tote, Vögel, Singen, Nicht by Ellen Bradley, who is a Canadian author. This is book 6 in the Flavia de Luce series, which is about an 11-12-year-old girl named Flavia de Luce who lives with her father and her 2 older sisters in a huge mansion, basically, which they inherited from the long line of de Luces, who have had like really important positions in like the British elite for a really long time. But right now they're really struggling after after her mother Harriet was basically, she went missing just a little bit after Flavia was born. Flavia is really interested in chemistry and also really enjoys solving mysteries, which this series is primarily about. It's about her being involved in different like crime investigations. So it's a middle grade mystery. I've been reading the series for over 10 years at this point, especially because the main character has my first name, and that was really cool for me to see as a child. I've been reading them really slowly, but this one really opened up the world, and I'm really excited to read the next installment soon. The next thing I read, which was actually also from my TBR, is White Sand Volume 1. Based on an idea by Sanderson and written and illustrated, I think, by Hoskin and Julius Gopez. I had some issues getting into this graphic novel because the beginning is super busy as far as like the pictures go, and also really monochromatic because it plays in the desert, and it also has quite a lot of text, but after like some time I really got into it. I ended up really enjoying it, and I'm also excited to read Volume 2. White Sand is part of Sanderson's Cosmere, and in this particular part of the Cosmere, the magic is based on sand. So to actually do the challenges, this was for a book in a genre you don't really read much, which is a little bit mystery. And this was the first book I touched. Okay. So, after finishing White Sand, the third book I read was The Reason I Jump by Naoki Higashida and translated by K.A. Yoshida and David Mitchell, which I was really skeptical of going into, and I did end up also being skeptical of by the time I finished it. What I did not know, so this book is written by a 12 or 13-year-old autistic boy who has issues communicating, so like putting his thoughts into words. And what I didn't know going into it was the fact that it's written basically for the most part like a Q&A or FAQ where he answers questions he gets a lot or perceives like people with autism get them a lot. There's also like some really short stories in there, and it just like didn't work for me. The author himself is very vehement about the fact that he only answers them for himself. However, the way this book is marketed is like the huge revelation for parents about children with autism, and that's just not true. This is one person's opinions and one person's feelings, which is valid, but just not what it is marketed as. And I feel really uncomfortable. I also felt really uncomfortable like reading it, to be honest. So that really wasn't my thing. I read it for the challenge of a book set on a continent that is not my own, because the author is Japanese, so he writes about his life in Japan. These 3 books were actually on my TBR. At this point in the week, I was really busy with exams, and I just had to like change a few things around. So first of all, I didn't have a single audiobook on my TBR, which is a little bit problematic if you know that I really like to listen to audiobooks when I'm outside of my house walking around. So basically at the beginning of the week I also started listening to The Fever King by Victoria Lee, which is a reread for me, but for some reason I forgot like literally everything that happens in this book after reading it 2 years ago. But I did enjoy it the first time around. I also enjoyed it this time around. The Fever King is the first book in a dystopian series by Victoria Lee, in which the plot is basically there's a virus which might be a little bit sensitive for some people, but a lot of people die from the virus, but the people who don't die end up having magic. And it's about main character Noam, who survives the virus, which his family did not, and him being introduced to like magical elite. And it's really queer, it's really interesting, and I'm also excited to read book 2 in this series. Then I also noticed that I wouldn't be watching The Imitation Game, because for the challenge of a book where you already watched the movie, I had chosen The Imitation Game graphic novel, but I hadn't yet watched the movie, and I just didn't find the time or motivation to do that, so I had to find a different book, and I ended up choosing Die Frauen von Stepford, or The Stepford Wives by Ira Levin. I watched that movie like randomly about 5 years ago and found this book. It's really short, it's 131 pages, and I read it, was fine, was great. I don't know. No, it wasn't great. It was good. I think what I remember of the movie is a little bit more detailed, and it does have a different ending. But it's still a really interesting concept, and I did enjoy the book. Then I did actually read The Imitation Game, Alan Turing Decoded, which is a graphic novel by Jim Ottaviani and Leland Purvis about Alan Turing, who played a really big role in decoding Nazi information during World War II, who was also a gay man, and he was persecuted for that, which is really, really horrible. I was super excited about this graphic novel, and I was quite disappointed. First of all, the art style is just like not my favorite. The other thing is that it was really confusing to me, and I didn't really understand why the authors decided to focus on certain aspects of Alan's life. I ended up giving it 3 stars. This I ended up reading all outside on Saturday and Sunday on my balcony. So then the last book I ended up reading was For My Birthstone, which was the challenge I had the biggest problems with, because I do think that it's actually proven that green book covers aren't that often, because I think they're just like not as appealing or something. And I did start the book I initially wanted to read for the challenge, but I just like really didn't get into that. So what I ended up reading is How to Disappear Completely by Ellie Standish, which is a book about a young girl who, after the death of her beloved grandmother, starts getting vitiligo. And it's a super important book. It's also a middle grade book, and I am a firm believer in like confronting children and young adults, but especially like children, middle grade readers, with topics like vitiligo, like autism, like disability, like race, just because if you find something in your fiction, you are more likely to be more tolerant and more understanding about it in real life. I do have some gripes with this book. I myself do have vitiligo, which is probably not very noticeable on camera, especially because I'm white, but I do have vitiligo. And as someone with vitiligo, I did feel that the representation wasn't amazing. And the way it was written, I was pretty sure that the author didn't have it herself, which is true. And also the main character is black/mixed race, and the author is white. And that representation also, at least in my eye, wasn't that good. So, although I do think this book is important, it would have been better if it was written by someone who shares the main character's experiences. First of all, I do understand that vitiligo is a lot more visible in people of color, and therefore they face more bullying because of it. However, I mean, the reason the author wrote about vitiligo is because her husband was diagnosed with it as an adult. However, this is a 12-year-old child, and those are different experiences, right? And also, writing POC characters as main characters as a white author also isn't great, right? I don't really know where I'm getting at. I have talked about this quite a lot in Quarantine Pages, and I never really know where to like do the end of this argument to wrap it up with that book. It's important. It's a fine read. It has like some magical elements in it. It has some good friendship. It also features a lot of bullying. But I just wish the author, I just wish it was on Voices, because I noticed that it wasn't written perfectly. So, this is all. This is what I read this week. I'm really sad that I didn't, get a 5-star read. But I was also super busy. As I was saying, exam season, also a birthday yesterday, and my mom came to visit me on Saturday. But, yeah, this is Reading Rush / Booktubeathon number 6 that I participated in. I have some not so great feelings about this readathon now, after seeing a few of the things the host didn't handle perfectly during this round, and I am sincerely thinking about this being the last time I do it. I really like participating in readathons, and I participate in a lot of other readathons as well, and maybe this is just not one of them going forward. So, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Did you participate in the Reading Rush? Did it go well for you? What are some other readathons you love? I hope you have a great day, and I hopefully see you soon.